God wanted to love us and for us to be able to love one another and Him. So there are deeper theological implications here. So, saying this another way, consider this for a second. If love exists, and I think we would all agree that it does, if love is a real thing, that means that there must be the potential for the opposite to exist. So, in other words, if love is a choice, we choose to take action. It's not just a warm fuzzy. Well, that means that we must have the capability to choose. So there's a free will implication here. We must have free will or the ability to choose. That's a prerequisite. You've got to have free will. Otherwise, love cannot exist. And I hope that makes a little bit of sense. It's a bit of a different way of thinking that we're not often used to, but these terms have really profound meaning. If you have free will, that means you are free to choose to love or not to love. So the implication is that evil exists because there are times where we choose to do the wrong thing, to not be loving in this example. What is evil? Does evil exist? Like, is it a thing? Like, what is it? Well, think about this analogy. I have up on the screen here a family riding bicycles, and there's sun behind them shining on their backs, and in front of where they're riding, there are shadows on the ground. So let's just make an analogy here. Light and darkness, the sunlight and the shadow, love and hate, okay, opposites. So what is evil? Well, what is a shadow by this example? Well, the shadow is the absence of the light. It's not a real thing. Like, it's not an object or a thing that was created uniquely by God when He created the universe. There is a sun, there's sunlight shining, but where that light is absent, we have shadow. Likewise, we have free will. We are able to choose to love, but we don't always do that. So the lack of love in our life, in the world around us, is the evil, is the shadow, so to speak. So evil is not a thing. It is a lack thereof. I heard a while ago somebody make the analogy of a donut hole, which initially I thought was really kind of strange. But if you think about a donut with a hole in the middle, the empty space in the middle, well, you can think of that empty space as being like evil. It's not a thing. It's the lack of where the donut is. There's no donut there. There's no light in the shadow. There's no love where the hate is. That's kind of the idea. But evil is not a thing or an object that you can put in your pocket. It's not that tangible. It's the absence of love or goodness. And there are lots of different ways to try to conceptualize that, but I hope that is helpful a little bit. So, if this is the case, and if God is good, why did God create a world where there is evil, where evil is all around us all the time? We see examples of this everywhere. I don't need to list you examples. Well, again, here's the implication, and this is where it gets a little bit deeper. God wanted to love us and for us to be able to love one another and Him. In order for that kind of world to exist, there has to be the ability to choose. So we can choose love freely. It's not forced. Forced love is not true love because love is a choice. It's an action that you take. If it's forced upon you, it's not really love. You're just responding to being forced to do something, right? So, in order for love to exist in the world, God created us with free will so that we would choose to love. But he did so with the understanding that we're not always going to do that. We're not always going to choose to love, and that creates the potential for evil in the world. So evil is not an object or a thing that God created. It is the result of our choice to not love, to not use our free will up to the maximum potential, if that makes any sense. So at some point in the past, when God created the universe and everything in it, including us, God made a decision that he must create a free will world, people with free will, in order to allow the potential for love. But yes, God understood the potential for evil that would come of that. But the desire and the power of love is so much greater than the imperfections, even the most horrible evils that have occurred in the world. The power of love overrides that.